All right, so today on the Leftover Fruit Show, we're going to introduce a new segment. We're going to call it Message in the Movie. And we adding this new segment kind of like a celebration for us reaching the 32,000 views. And we the 032 conglomerate, so that means a lot to us. So this story that we're going to do is, this movie is called The Drop. Released in 2014, this is James Gandolfini's last movie, so it's a big deal. And he co-starring with Tom Hardy in this one. This whole film, when you break it down to the simplest form, it's all about accountability. That's why everything happens in this movie. Everything, Cousin Marv, which is James Gandolfini's character, not being able to accept accountability for who he isn't and who he once was, literally catapults all of the trouble that we see in this film. Bob Saganowski is portrayed by Tom Hardy. He was his cousin Marv's muscle at one point when they did run things. This is before the guy who you're looking at now. It's before the Chechen Mafia came in and took over their territory. Before the Chechens came in, they had a little bit of Shylark going. You know, they had money on the street. They was lending out money. They had did a few things to solidify who they was. And Bob Saganowski, Tom Hardy, was the muscle in that situation. Cousin Marv was the quote-unquote brains at that time. That's James Gandolfini. He ran the crew. And they met a little bit of discomfort, I like to call it, when the Chechen Mafia came into their territory. And simple as can be, Cousin Marv folded, you know. They put a little heat on him. He folded. That was that. No big deal. We see it every day. But the problem was that he didn't understand how big the situation was. When they came to him, he flinched. And he flinched thinking that, oh, you know, I still am who I am. You know, one day I could change this all around if I want to. You know, he took that approach. Bob Sag, being his actual muscle, being more of a grounded, level-head person, he was able to understand real quick. Oh, we flinched. We scared of the Chechens. All right, cool. It's over with. You know, now you just run a ball for the Chechens. You do as they say. You move their money around as they say, when they say. And that's that. You know, all of that gangsterism or whatever you want to call it, all the strength is gone. It was hard for Cousin Marv to understand that. And him not being able to accept that, him being a coward in that way, is what led to his downfall. He ended up getting clipped over it. Spoiler. So the whole film is basically about him trying to be smarter than the Chechens. They end up being selected to be the drop ball where all of the illegal money come for one night, and it's a big night. It's Super Bowl night. All the money in New York City that's underground money that can't be, you know, that ain't clean money, end up coming to their bar on this specific night. And Cousin Marv, being all for self and not being accountable for his actions, his inability to do that leads him to devise a plan with a guy named Eric Deeds. And they decide, well, Cousin Marv decide, yeah, I'm going to knock my own ball over. And not once, but twice. So he kind of get away with it the first time. The guys who he actually get to do the heavy lifting, they end up dead. And he get away scot-free, basically. he started getting aggravated with the way that the Chechens start to treat him. It's a whole lot, even less respect involved in their interactions at that point. And, he started to get a little pissy about that. He started to get these thoughts in his own mind. So much so that he ended up flipping out on his own muscle, his cousin, and telling his cousin, this don't bother you because, you ain't never really been nobody. You always been a second hand. You don't know what it feel like to be number one. You don't know what it feel like to be respected in that way for real. And, Bob, not really a people person, but he gets straight to it real quick and simple. Bob tell him straight up, no, you was never nobody when it counted though. We was doing what we was doing in the neighborhood before any adversity hit us. When adversity came, you flinched, the Chechens moved in, and that was that. It's been over with since. You confused. And our run was so short that we can't go around acting like we, going down in history on that level and a part of that thing when we ain't, Bob understood that. Bob didn't mind going or not going, but Marv, being the one man, decided, hey, we go cool out. The Chechens known for doing some gruesome things that we don't necessarily, or I don't necessarily do on the regular. And I don't really want to go up against that. I'm not strong enough. So he had enough sense to understand that, but he didn't have enough sense to understand that he wasn't the smartest guy in the room. And that came to his detriment. I really respect this film for being a slow builder. It's not a whole lot of action throughout the movie. It's not a shoot in every scene. It's not that way. It's more based in truth. But it's like one of those slow building Quentin Tarantino movies. It's like The Hateful Eight. Maybe a little bit like Django, but closer to Hateful Eight, where it's that slow, steady build. You get all of the pieces of the puzzle, and then at the end, boom, it really hit. And it's one of those. And, I could always appreciate those kind of films because it's closer to real life to me. I feel like everybody know that guy, a cousin Marv in their life, somebody who either personally or secondhand, who confused about who they is in real life. Who they,
no one ever sees
who everybody
you
else see them as,
do they, Bob?
Versus who they want to be seen as when they feel tough that day. And that leads to his detriment. We also know, everybody knows a Bob Sag, somebody who, quiet, reserved, don't want the attention, but will rise to any type of occasion, And then there's Nadia. She ends up being, her and Bob Sag end up having a dog together. They kind of build their relationship. They got good chemistry on camera. But she looks at Bob as, a regular guy who, most people might be turned off by, because of his natural nature of not being a people person. But she just she don't look at him as evil, She don't look at him in that way. She look at him as somebody who just need that second chance. And even though she have a real rugged past with men in this film, she's the one to initiate giving him that chance, And he kind of look at her like an angel almost. Like he looks at her like, man, like he almost can't believe that it's possible. She's battling with her own situation. from this previous relationship with this guy named Eric Deeds. We all know that type too. He's a wolf amongst sheep. As soon as he play crazy, but as soon as another wolf is in the picture, he's smart enough and cognizant enough to know, it's time to play sheep again. He got that much sense. So he is taking credit for some stuff that he didn't necessarily do on his own. And he's trying to make himself seem tougher than he is. And he ends up in a world of trouble by doing that and not understanding who Bob Sag is. And that's exactly who he is right there, that picture you see. And anyway, he is Nadia's ex. And this what happened. He trying to rob the drop bar. That's his good old partner right there. Cousin Marv planning on going bad on his own cousin and skipping town and leaving him to deal with the Chechens. But the Chechens understand who and what Marv is. He don't understand he amongst wolf. He think Bob sheep. So he don't understand his place in this scene. Marv thinks he's smarter than everybody else, so he figures that because Bob played a backseat, he feel like Bob gotta be behind. He feel like Bob gotta be steps behind him. He's smarter. Not so much so.
No one ever
Marv
sees you
the same
coming,
fate.
do they, Bob?
The Chechens figure it out faster than he think. And he end up seeing in the end. He got a short window to see, but he end up seeing that he not as bright as he thought he was. Bob is in his natural habitat, as we can see. And nobody sees Bob except for the lead detective in the disappearance of these people who going missing. And that's John Ortiz. That's Russell Crowe partner in American Gangster, the one who fell at that age. He clean in this movie though. He let Bob know in the end that he see Bob and he know what it is. Boom.